Welcome to the Conquer Risk Podcast. My name is Manish Kata. As always, I'm joined with Jeff Goodnow, Director of Advisor Education here at Potomac. One of the rules we have when doing this podcast is we try our hardest not to talk about product. We want to talk about topics that are relevant to our RIAs and stay away from any product talk. This one's going to be a little different because we have recently announced a new product line that we're excited to share with everyone. And so this is going to be a deep dive into this product. So Jeff, what are we doing?
Yeah, well, we are super pumped for sure. I mean, this has been a lot of work and effort, but what we're really doing today is talking about the Union UMA. And, you know, an easy starter is why union? Well, if you look up the definition, you'll find out that's the act of joining in harmony. And it says a lot about what we have tried to do as a business with advisors, right? It's that common theme that we're struggling with as we all do, right? How do we bring these different things together, whether it be technology, service, etc., and that's where we're headed with this conversation. So from that standpoint, the Union UMA is something that we've set out on a journey. We've got other podcast episodes as we, built this platform, and that's really what we're going to talk about today. This is 6-7 months or more in the working, for sure. Target, pretty simple. We're looking for $20 to $50 million advisors. I mean, those are the kinds of advisors that are typically by themselves or maybe have one or two other people helping them out, but we've seen with our prior discussions, they're not necessarily being treated the way they deserve. So that's a starting point.
And you and I, when we're doing content, writing blogs, whatever it may be, we always have this discussion where I bring up the why. Mm-hmm. Because it's important anytime you craft any content, the why. So in this case, the why is that we've seen a massive shift towards TAMPs. However, these TAMPs are built to scale. And when you're built to scale, the problem is the smaller end clients get sort of left to the side. And that's our why, at least. Do you have anything to add to that concept?
Yeah, I mean, and of course, I think the simple statement we're just going to make is service has to be there, because that's one of the biggest factors that gets left out. Forget all the technology, right? That's what we're going to talk about a lot, is the technology and the offering today. But service has to be there. And we think that we can bring big service as a small business to what's lacking from the big box solutions.
Okay, so we want to touch upon three major points around the Union UMA, and we're going to dive into details on these 3 points. The main one is investment management. Now, as a third-party strategist ourselves, we feel like we have a little bit of knowledge on this topic and the ability to look into other strategists and models and really do a lot of the digging around them. What's our plan here on the investment management side?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, it's to make sure that we have a good breadth available. Right. And while some people may say, what the hell are you doing, destroying your own business? Instead, we see the value. You and I have always thought that there's good value in combinations, right? Non-correlated strategists coming together to build a better portfolio. So everything from strategic solutions to tactical solutions to timing solutions are all available in this platform. And that's pretty cool. You start looking at some of the names and you get things like American Funds and Vanguard and Russell, Meter, tactical solutions like Meter and Maine and Horizon. Of course, Potomac would fit in the tactical solution space. But there's also big names like Morningstar and Zacks and, a lot of individual security solution providers. So it's pretty cool, the breadth that we have been able to put together in such a short time for a small shop.
I want to touch on a point that you made earlier that I think is pretty important. We are disrupting our own business because we think it's the right thing to do. And so when a client comes to us and has, $250,000, historically we would build a portfolio of Potomac strategies. And that's fine. It depends on the client's risk tolerance, and that may be perfectly suitable. But there's other examples where the client may need other strategists, or the advisor wants to sprinkle in a little bit of tactical instead of the whole thing. And so we're making that available for folks to actually craft from a list of strategists. So, and you'll be the point person on that going forward to work with these advisors. So that's an important part here. The second part of this is multi-custodian. Mm-hmm. Now, I want to make something clear. We are never going to be the shop that has 10 different choices, because we can't handle that, right? The point is to make this a simple process. And in most cases, advisors shouldn't have money at 5 or 6 different custodians. So to start, it's going to be Fidelity and TD. Those are the relationships we have set up, and those are going to be the choices that will be available. We don't care either way. It just depends on what each advisor is comfortable with choosing in that situation.
Yeah, and as we take this a step farther too, and I appreciate the reference to multi-custodians. I just rattled off a minute ago a bunch of different names of managers that are available, strategists that are available, as they're called in the Union UMA platform. And that's all fine and dandy, but guess what? You can get to a lot of those in a lot of places. One of the things that we feel is a differentiator in the investment management space is our ability, because of additional expertise that most managers just simply don't have, is the OCIO, the Outside Chief Investment Officer capabilities. And the concept here is simple in that we're going to help each of these advisors craft a curated list of strategists and portfolios, or models as they're called, into a custom list for them. And that's that ability to have due diligence done, and not only initial but ongoing, and the ability to work together with an advisor to help optimize perhaps a portfolio combination. Maybe it's a couple of managers they're already using, but can we help them find an optimal blend for that? Those are capabilities that just simply aren't offered by most platforms, and that's something that we can do, again, because we have a different expertise level than most.
And I'm going to push you here on the why. The reason that we can do this is it comes back to scale. When you're growing a multi-billion dollar TAMP, you're not going to spend the time for a $20 million advisor to custom curate a list. You're going to say, look, here's our 5 pre-bit allocations. We likely revenue share with all 5 of them. Choose this. And this is not a knock on these larger TAMPs. It's just the simple fact that you cannot scale customer service. You cannot scale being custom. And that's where we have an advantage swimming in this small space to be able to offer those services.
Yeah, that's great. It's kind of funny when you think about it, right? Because everybody talks about scale, and therefore there's like this automatic assumption that scale means you have to get bigger in order to be successful. And I think that's where so many places have just gone so wrong. Growth is great, right? There's not a problem with that. But, the concept of just always having to get massively, exponentially bigger, I think is just, they're missing the mark a little bit there. But hey, to each his own, right? Everybody has a different business model. This is ours. We want to be a small business that works with small businesses. And that's where you and I have the passion to be able to do this and understand who we're working with. So do you have some example or two of some of the SMA capabilities beyond just the typical model, mutual fund ETF type solutions?
Yeah, so in addition to the model concept, right? In the model concept, we're intaking signals. There's not a lot of customizations on the underlying holdings. So in a model concept, you have your different choices that you can allocate to. What if someone needs customizations in terms of tax loss harvesting, or they have someone, for example, a client with, a ton of Microsoft stock that you want to build positions around? Models aren't designed for that. So in that case, we are going to tack on a SMA capability where we can bring in customized SMA managers who will create these portfolios for folks, private wealth, whatever you want to call it, within this sort of administration of Union UMA. And that opens it up. And we're admitting that that's not our cup of tea. We're not here to tax loss harvest or to create custom portfolios. That's not what we do. So we're bringing in experts for our advisors through Union UMA to help in that regard.
Cool, cool. And for clarity, the models are not just mutual fund or ETF, but there are models that are individual security as well. So this is what you're speaking of is something that is, I want to be clear on the word customization, right? That's where we have some customization capabilities beyond the typical
let's
models.
be clear on this. So like I appreciate that. Let's be clear on this. The model is when the manager is tossing trades to us with no insight into each client's specific situation. They're tossing trades. You buy this and sell that.
And that's and that's securities and agnostic. It doesn't matter what type of security.
And the SMA is making decisions based on that specific client in terms of concentrated positions or tax loss harvesting. You don't tax loss harvest in a model situation because you don't know when those necessarily may have been purchased if they came in from another manager. So not to dive too deep in here. So what is this all going to cost us?
Right. Well, that's the last thing about investment management. We want to be very specific in this for this purpose, and that is, there really are three pieces to the puzzle. There's the advisor fee, which of course you the advisor are going to be choosing what that is. But as far as cost of the UMA platform, all the things that we talk about today are involving two things: a platform fee, which starts at 40 basis points and works its way down as the accounts get bigger, and also a strategist fee. And the strategist fee is typically going to be 10 basis points to maybe 50 basis points. There are a few I've seen that are a little bit higher than that, but your normals, your big names like your American funds, your Vanguard, your Russell, your CLS, there's quite a few of them that are 10 basis points. So it's pretty cool to be able to come in and say, okay, wait a second here. So we've got a $100,000 account, $200,000 account. Client's going to come in and be in that range of maybe 1.5 if the advisor wants to charge 1. I mean, they're just giving you a ballpark, but that's a very reasonable situation to be able to bring multiple managers together. Again, each strategist is going to have their own fee. It's that you just decide what you're working with, or work with us to help determine that need.
Okay.
So I think that wraps it up for the cost thing. As we move on, I'm going to toss one to you. As we move on to point 2, really, it's about a phrase that I have a little issue with sometimes, and that's integrated technology. Integrated we've sort of given it a bad connotation occasionally when we talk about general integrations. And, the fact that this is all of these things that we're going to talk about today are built from the ground up together is a little bit different iteration, but integrated is still kind of the best word to use. So I just wanted to touch on that. You want to dive in here in the technology side?
Yeah, I want to start with a story. As a third-party money manager, we work with advisors that are RIAs or broker-dealers, reps across the country. And historically, when we wanted to put together a software package, we went out and said, all right, let's get a proposal. The proposal goes to our back office system. Then it kicks off a DocuSign. The client signs. And that simple process, when I say it like that, wasn't so simple in real life. The proposal system wouldn't send anything more than name or email. The DocuSign then had to go through the custodian. How do you add in the broker-dealer paperwork or the RIA paperwork? It was an absolute mess to get all these people to talk to each other. So when we set out to do this, we said to ourselves, the only way that we're going to release this is if it's an all-in-one solution that doesn't make the advisor then have to bring in separate pieces of technology. And that was huge for us because we have experienced firsthand what happens when you try to get these pieces of technology to talk to each other. It simply doesn't work. And that was, I think we accomplished that in this all-in-one solution. And that's how we purposely set out to build this, not to have these separate pieces of tech.
Okay. So as we move forward down that line of thought process, let's talk about some of the tech that is included in the Union UMA. I'll start with the basic, and as we start this list, I want to make this statement. The concept behind this was we wanted to be able to offer advisors the full life cycle of a client experience. So from proposal to getting the account open to to doing all those things, the risk questionnaires, etc. And so let's dive in here. I mean, financial planning is one of the things that will be included, right? Maybe you do a financial plan and need some other things involved. So what are your thoughts about the fact that we have financial planning included in this?
My biggest pet peeve with financial planning right now is it's so separate from investments in the world. You create this financial plan, you have these goals, you have this rate of return you need, and then you go to a completely separate system and start piecing together investments that may or may not have the same risk tolerance as your financial plan, may not have the same return characteristics. So we wanted to start with the financial plan. And if a client doesn't need a financial plan for whatever reason, at least start with the aggregation so they can get all their accounts in one place. And then you have an idea of what they need. Because running a risk tolerance on one account that may be 10% of their total net worth doesn't do anyone any justice. So we started with, let's build in the financial planning, the account aggregation, and from there you can jump into the proposal generation, which you and I have good experience on using some systems out there that just we won't mention any names, but
yeah, I think let's just say that we've gone through all the pain for you. Oh my goodness. There's a lot of tools out there. I mean, some of them are pretty cool, some of them aren't. But in the end, you do a risk analysis and then that's usually part of the proposal system. And so we want to be upfront here. Yeah, so now all of a sudden think about it. You've got the risk questionnaire, you've got a financial plan, you've got a proposal generator to put multiple different strategists and models together. That's pretty cool. But now what do you do? Well, you got to open the account. You want to talk about opening up the account and what that looks like?
Yeah, so from all in one screen from the proposal side, once you decide on the manager combination, you can send that out to the client, and then we do the digital account opening from there. And so a lot of the requirements are skinned into the technology, so you're filling a lot of those things within the user interface, and then it kicks off to DocuSign. In an ideal world, it's all built into the technology, but we're not there yet, so you still need the DocuSign person involved. It's our DocuSign instance. Once again, all in one. The advisor doesn't have to bring their own capabilities, and they're both through TD and Fidelity, and that kicks off through within the workflow of the account opening.
Well, and in case I missed it, I think this is pretty cool too. As part of that process, we can actually take, if you have a couple of documents for your own RIA, we can take those and set them into the system for you and you only, so that you're not having to do, hey, this is cool, this Union UMA, all these documents are DocuSign, but then, oh, by the way, my client profile and my disclosure or whatever you might have, yeah, well, I don't have that capability, so I guess I got to get a piece of paper and have them fill that out while we're at it.
Correct. So this is why we're onboarding in pieces, because we are going to tag all these documents for each advisor that are specific to their practice.
Right.
Correct.
Right. And so, once we get to that point, there's now the client's got this stuff, right? They've got this cool account and they've got this financial planning and they got this aggregation and all these things. How do they see it? Well, there's a client portal. So a pretty slick UI, right? An interface that the client can log into and see all of the above, which is pretty sweet, right? I mean, that's times have changed. And we are changing with them from the standpoint of clients now expect, this is a change, they expect to be able to log in with their phone, a lot of them do, their phone or their iPad or whatever, and see their account balance, and see how they're doing, and see what their savings account is, and see all these things. They're getting that kind of interactivity with just about every other part of their life, something that they can do on their phone or their app or their website. And we want to make sure that those are the kinds of things that are capable here. So there is a user interface or client portal. Do you have any other thoughts on the portal?
No, it's just it's branded, it's white labeled. Financial planning, investments, also a file server. So you are not using a separate, your own file server to collect documents. We can collect it all in the portal
and be secure.
So all these things, and all these things were thought out because we wanted to have the information in one place and not have the advisor go get these separate tools. So these things were part of the thought out process. The last thing that we can touch on here is the trading, billing, reporting. That's all handled obviously within that administrative cost, the platform cost that we're charging. In addition, you have the capability to then adjust those managers as you see fit, run new risk scores, make those changes. Those are all taken care of on our end. One thing that's important that's not going to be there is the self-directed portion. I think that's real quick to make that clear. That's not an option here. We can talk about that some other time as to why we decided that. But those that makes up the technology. I hate the word stack, but the technology bundle, whatever you want to call it.
Well, and this is where, as we come full cycle, right? We started this with saying we weren't going to spend a ton of time talking about service because that really to us has to be a given. But I do want to bring it full circle back to that, and that is the whole point of creating this technology capability and the Union UMA to bring these different features together is to understand that smaller advisor that we were speaking of needs to have an extension to their back office. And that's what our team is becoming. We can use the phone, email, we do webinars, we can do all kinds of things to do video tools, etc., to be able to train you and support you and your staff, not only to use this system, but just in the basics. I mean, heck, I spent an hour having a conversation about a non-Potomac investment situation with an advisor the other day because they're good people and they just needed a backboard. They needed somebody to talk to, and we worked through it. And it was, they touched on financial a little bit, but those are the kinds of things that we want to do. And if we need to do a screen share or those sorts of things and show you how to walk through something, we like making technology simple. And so our team becomes an extension to your back office.
Yeah, the co-browsing ability is there. We can hop on and walk people through that. The point is that when you have a request, we handle it. And I want to tell a story on this because it bothered me the other day. There's a business partner of ours who we do business with. We pay them for services. And the past couple months, I've had to resend a sent email, and that stuff just burns me, and that's what we are never going to do when it comes to the service side. If you are unable to respond to your clients in a timely fashion, you're either bad at customer service or you have too many clients. That's the bottom line. And so all these pet peeves that advisors have out there, trying to get customer service, getting a ticket number, having to follow up multiple times, getting that email back that says, "Oh, I've been so busy. I'm sorry I couldn't get to your email, blah, blah, blah," like 2 weeks later. That's essentially what we are trying to avoid. That is, at the end of the day, the sales pitch. Your business matters to us because it does. And so that's really what it comes down to for you and I, at least, is the customer service aspect of it. And our staff is well aware. If there's any examples of someone not returning an email within a very short period of time or completely dropping the ball, it gets handled on our end. It's not something that we accept. We make mistakes, of course, but that kind of stuff is just not acceptable at all.
Yeah, I think that's very well said, and let's just sum that up from the standpoint of join us in the Union UMA. Bring some harmony to your life. There's a waiting list on our website. You can go to Union UMA, and that way you can start to get some more information. And we're staging out people who are coming on board, and we're looking at third, fourth quarter as is. So it's they're stacking up, and we would love to talk to you about that. Let's talk about recommendations. What you got?
All right. Well, as I get older, I'm trying to be less of a hothead that I used to be. I think I've done a pretty good job of calming down a little bit. So to all those business partners that I may have been an asshole to in my younger years, that's water under the bridge. So there's this surfer guy named Laird Hamilton, I think his name is. He has this breathing app, and he teaches performance breathing. which is an interesting concept. He teaches athletes to nose breathe because that's the way to perform better versus mouth breathing. I won't dive into the details, but there's an app that takes you through these different breathing exercises. And frankly, I'm not turning into a hippie here, but the shit works. Like, it's, if you get fired up, if you feel yourself getting fired up, if you just take a second to step back and do a couple breathing exercises, it absolutely calms you down and gets your mind right, because responding in anger is usually the wrong response. And so that's my recommendation. I think it's called XPT Life. We'll include the link in the show notes there.
Well, it's interesting. I think maybe we're both coming to a similar spot. From the standpoint of my recommendation is really a non-product of any kind. It is, I think we all need this kind of reminder, and that is, be happy with what you have. Don't get caught in the constant version of wanting more. We want to be successful. We want to have the thing or the go to the place or whatever. And I think, it's good sometimes to just stop, pause, and reflect and realize that, you should be really happy for where you are. Think about, I heard somebody say this the other day. If you look back even a generation or two, 80, 50, 75, 80, 100 years ago, the royalty then don't have anywhere near what the average person has today. And that really gave me some perspective and some thought, right, of what we have, and we just take these things for granted. So take a moment, take a breath, and be happy with what you have.
Well, listen, just statistically, if you think about it, I mean, to be alive, you're lucky, to 2 arms, 2 legs, to be fed. There's all these things that statistically you're actually lucky, especially the people that'll listen to this podcast.
Right.
You guys and gals have absolutely nothing to complain about. But that's we'll get into that. That should be the next podcast.
All right. Well, we appreciate the time, effort, and energy to listen, watch, etc. Thanks for the comments. We really appreciate getting emails and other things saying that you guys and gals do enjoy listening and watching and so forth. So keep your eyes out. Go out to our website, choose the Union UMA wait list, and get more information. Have a conversation with us. Thanks.
Thank you.